Good evening, everyone. My name is Amanda Sutton. I'm the Events and Marketing Director for Bookworks. We're your 36-year-old independent bookstore in the North Valley of Albuquerque. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. This is another virtual event from my home office as we're emerging now from the pandemic. We appreciate you supporting us during the pandemic. We're now open for browsing, and our new store hours these days are Tuesdays through Saturday from 9 to 4. So we're closed on Sunday and Mondays. We're still bringing you virtual events on Wednesdays and Sundays. Moving into the fall, as we start to head out of the COVID-19 pandemic and look at some live events later on this year. For the foreseeable future, we're going to be right here on Zoom doing these author events, and we're always pleased to have a crowd. Tonight, we are here with Kathryn Wilder for her new book, Desert Chrome. She's going to be in conversation with Laura Pritchett, another of our Southwestern Mountain West authors who has kindly joined us to talk to Kat about her book. We hope that you'll think about picking up a copy from us. That is how we stay in business and how we're able to keep bringing you these virtual events. However, if you don't buy a copy from Bookworks, you can think about buying one from your independent bookstore, whether that's Maria's, Collected Works, Changing Hands, or another bookstore near you. Please remember to shop local. All right, got to get that spiel out of the way. That's what they pay me the big bucks to do. All right, if you have any questions that come up for you during the chat, you can always type during the chat with the two authors, you can type them into the chat, and we will have a little question and answer at the end. All right, Desert Chrome. We're here today to talk about Kathryn Wilder's new memoir from Torrey House Press. I don't know about you folks, but I love Torrey House Press. We've done lots of events with their authors over the year. They're always bringing some fabulous titles. This year, we've hosted Jacqueline Keeler for her new book on Native American activism and Standing Rock. We've hosted Brooke and Terry Tempest Williams over the years. And tonight, we're happy to have Kat Wilder here with us. Her work has been featured in Best American Essays, nominated for the Pushcart. She's also been featured in High Desert Journal, Sierra Magazine, and many other anthologies. She holds a master's degree from Northern Arizona University over in beautiful Flagstaff, and she also has an MFA from the Institute of American Indian Arts. She lives over in the corner of Colorado, nearest to Dolores, she tells me, in the Southwest with her horses. And then we've got Laura Pritchett coming to us from a little farther north in Colorado. You may know Laura. I love her work. Her book, Stars Go Blue. The Blue Hour is one of our staff picks. She's an award-winning author who has so graciously accompanied Kat on this little journey tonight to promote her new book. Thank you, ladies, both, so much for joining us tonight. I'm going to unpin myself and let you talk about Kat's new memoir, Desert Chrome. Good evening.
Thank you for that. I'm just going to chime in and say thank you, all independent bookstore owners and Bookworks, especially for hosting this. And I am so delighted to be able to talk with Kat, who is a dear friend now. I'm not going to give her a formal intro because you just did, and it's on the back of the book. But I will say, by way of introduction, that the thing I love about Kat is that she is the real deal. She's really out there with the horses and ranching and working hard. And anytime I try to get a hold of her, she says, well, can we talk late at night? Because she's been, she's out working. And she's out also being part of the literary community. If any of you see her on Facebook, you know that she's given shout outs and love to all the other authors and keeping track of people and being part of the contemporary conversation that's going on out there. And for those reasons, I adore her. I think we first met when she showed up at a reading I was doing at Maria's in Durango. And she reached out to me, and we've just had this nice deepening relationship ever since. And I was lucky enough to get to see a first or second or something, maybe fifth, I don't know, draft of this book long ago. And I'm so proud of her. It's so much work to finish a book and revise a book and get it out, as many of you know. And so it's just really a delight to be here. And Kat, I'll be quiet now. I'm hoping you'll introduce yourself a bit and give us a reading to start us off.
Well, thank you, Laura and Amanda and Bookworks and all the independent bookstores and small publishers who are supporting people like me coming out of the closet as writers, only as writers, I mean. And Laura, yeah, Laura's been wonderful, a mentor, helped me with different drafts and thoughts, and it's been really great. So thank you, Laura, for being here and being willing to do this. And in order to make myself less nervous, I will read because that's something I'm used to. Thank you. Okay, this is from chapter 2, the beginning of chapter 2. I'm nervous. I'm always nervous. Okay, punctured. Coho and I survive jabalinas and cold and arrive in New Mexico intact. Next to a Rio Grande tributary and cottonwoods turning to gold sits an adobe casita with a flat roof and flagstone lanai. The casita is empty but for a single bed mattress on a window seat of the same size, a daybed. Coho's toenails click across polished floorboards as I open blinds. The chilly interior chases us back outside. We sit on stone steps in dappling sunlight. My cell phone doesn't work and there is no landline or internet, just Coho and me in the truest sense. He rests his chin on my knee, his one up, one down ears settling against his head as I absently trace the salt and pepper markings of his face and watch the world around us. Cars on the road, disturbing the song of the Rio, the canopy of cottonwoods, shrinking what sky hangs between the close canyon wall. Although it's still afternoon, when the sun touches the southern rim, the daybed beckons. Sleeping bag and patchwork quilt, slowing the chill, I watch heart-shaped cottonwood leaves twirling and falling through the light and curl into myself like a dying leaf, brittle at the edges. Detritus, Oakland, 2008. In the middle of a December afternoon, a gardener let himself into my best friend Rebecca's kitchen, using the spare key he'd been instructed to find under a potted plant on the back porch. He shut his nostrils against the smells, food rotting and cat feces primarily. The cat, skittering off down a short hallway, whined as it fled, hungry and in want of water and the outdoor litter box it normally used. The man puckered his nose, choosing not to see the cluttered kitchen and the dim light sneaking through closed blinds. His foot kicked an empty cat food can and it rattled across the floor. He called out for Rebecca, his voice an echo in the still dead air of the tiny Oakland home. He took another step, wondering why he was doing this, why Rebecca's sister had asked and he hadn't refused, why they didn't just call the police. He heard the cat in the far bedroom. He'd cleared Rebecca's yard of chest-high weeds, the act ordered by the city for fire prevention, and had called the sister in Virginia when Rebecca didn't answer the door any of the times he'd come over to collect the check. And here he was. Every window was covered with blinds or blankets. He almost forgot in his slow walk across the kitchen to the near bedroom that outside the day held the bloom of winter sun in a clear blue sky, a sky the color of Rebecca's eyes. Standing at the threshold of her room, he heard the cat scamper around behind him, aiming for the kitchen door, which he'd left open for the smell. He glanced at the empty, rumpled bed and the clutter everywhere, hoping he wouldn't find what his nose already told him was there. Why he didn't turn away and follow the cat outside, he didn't know. Something compelled him forward, maybe the same morbid curiosity that causes traffic to creep past an accident. When he turned on the light, he saw a small, pudgy foot in a dirty white sock. He couldn't see the other leg until he entered the room fully, and there she lay. my Rebecca, in jeans and a white tank top pulled tight with the bloat, one arm bent at the elbow, her other leg bent at the knee. She looked thick and sort of green, and her open eyes no longer held the sky. No blood or bile anywhere, just the smell and a quiet Rebecca and the half-empty pill bottles on the nightstand. What hand of grace touches one addict clean and misses another? Rebecca was 53, so many pills for back pain, insomnia, mail-ordered meds. She called me the day before she died. She called everyone, talked to nobody. We were all busy. I called her back and left a message. I love you, come visit, but you know you can't use when you're here. She couldn't have come to Maui anyway. She was already death walking. No way she could have navigated an airport. I could have carried her, but I didn't.
Oof, that is painful. Thank you for sharing that, Kat. That pertains to one of the questions I have for you, actually. And I'll ask a few and then we'll open it up to the other questions coming in on the chat later. But, you know, I always tell my students that they don't have to write something great every day, but they have to write something true. And truth is hard, and telling true stories is hard. And that's one reason I love, you know, what I would call serious books. I know people sometimes want the fluffier, easier things, but I always say you can't have dessert till you have the real meal. And the real meal is like really looking at life as it is. And you've written about addiction, your own and Rebecca's, and I just wondered if you'd say a few words about that and about life after addiction.
Well, I'll say that life after addiction is better, way, way better. Of course, when I was using, I didn't think that. And when they told me when I went to treatment that I had just used my last drugs, I didn't think that life after that would be better, but it's been great. It's been hard, and there's shit happens, you know, and we have to struggle through it. But if we can hang in there and struggle through without using, it's better. It's just better. I know there's some people out there who would agree with me, and it's tough. So ask me more about that.
Yeah, well, how was writing about it? And what did writing do for you? Was it, did it help you clarify or accept or sit with the pain of yours and Rebecca's history with drugs?
Well, most of our history with drugs is not in this book. I didn't share the worst stuff. Some of it, my mother who is here, she doesn't know all the dark stuff. So I'll save that for later. The hard thing, it's hard to be clean and to watch somebody you love and have loved for years, to watch them debilitate to the point that death is what's at the end of that. So writing about Rebecca was hard. Writing about using is not so hard unless I go to the really dark places, which I don't want to do. Writing about Rebecca, and I wrote a lot more about Rebecca that was removed from this story because it was sort of out of balance. Yeah, that was hard. Help me.
Yeah. Well, no, it seems to me that one of the major themes of the book is healing. And I wondered if you'd say words about that, healing through writing or healing through the work of your life. And that might also pertain to how did this book come to be, or why did it come to be, which is a very big question, but I always love asking that.
That is a big question. And I think it came to be because I had to find a way to handle Rebecca's death. And then soon after she died, my my stepfather was diagnosed with melanoma 30 days after she OD'd. And so, and then while we were all dealing with that, my bio father kind of died. Well, he didn't kind of die, he died. And that was right. And that was 4 months before the expected death of my stepfather, my Hanai father. And I needed to find a way to handle it. I couldn't get loaded. I couldn't drink. I couldn't do anything, you know, that would have fooled myself into thinking would help. I did eat chocolate. I will say that. I still eat chocolate. But the writing was a way to put some of the experiences that I was having with those losses. It gave me a place to put some of that. And I really thought I was writing about Rebecca. The book was going to be about Rebecca. And I kept thinking that until I came upon mustangs and started following that path and realizing, you know, that maybe the story was a little bigger, or that there was some other point that I could make. And I didn't want just to be a healing and recovery book. I feel like I'm talking to myself. Am I talking to myself? My sister's there. She's okay.
Oh, can you see everyone? I can see everyone.
Yeah,
And
I am looking at
they're
people
smiling,
now,
happy
okay.
faces. Some new friends, some old.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, you know, major revision, you've seen major revision, but to integrate the story of, you know, of healing and the trauma that wild horses go through, you know. Okay, next question.
Well, no, that was great. Thank you. I'm just conversing with you, and I'm just thinking that when I teach that there's very little me in memoir. Like the best memoirs, they look very deep internally. It is a gaze at the self, but it's in order to talk about universal things that we can all relate to, and healing or recovery, grief, and also water and women and horses in the West. I mean, your subtitle is fabulous. So maybe we can shift, because I one thing I love about your memoir, Kat, is that it discusses so very much about the deep, pure, true you, and deep, pure, true issues going on out there. So will you talk a little bit about horses and mustangs and what you do and all of that part of the book?
Yes. I feel extremely lucky to have made 2 right turns in a row one day and went down a long, dusty, empty road and found and saw mustangs. Well, on that road, I had no idea where I was. And then once I saw them and I, you know, I write about that. I started researching them and learned more about mustangs, learned about that herd in particular, Spring Creek Basin mustangs in Disappointment Valley. And then I started learning about the issues around mustangs that, you know, I had maybe been aware of peripherally, but I'd been in Hawaii for a long time. And wild horses was not something we were talking about over there. So it was kind of a, you know, a new awareness and then something that gave me necessary focus. I needed focus at that time, and I still do, obviously. So I started researching and learning about fertility control and, you know, that whole thing that I hope this book explains and shows why I'm an advocate for that, and why I'm TJ, my friend TJ, who also lives in Disappointment Valley. She's one of my nearest neighbors. She's 7 miles away. She actually is out darting horses in the field, and she's been doing it for a long time. I'm kind of just a side something, but you know, watch and monitor the horses that I see. And the other day, I guess I'd been doing something with the cattle, and I got home and I looked out, and from my kitchen window for the very first time, I saw mustangs. It's just joy. It's so it's just joyous to see. I see, you know, deer and elk and bobcats and the mountain lions are elusive, but anyway, you know, I see wild animals every day out there, but to see the horses from my kitchen window, I mean, who gets that? It's just so miraculous. Okay.
Thanks. Well, I thought of you. I was just driving back from the Crested Butte Arts Festival back to Northern Colorado where I live, and in the South Park area, there's the new sign up that says future home of Mustang Rescue. And I thought of your book, of course, and all the good people working. And can you just say a few words of like, what is the status of rescue right now, or what do you see going on?
You know, the most Mustangs, wild horses run on public lands, Bureau of Land Management lands. So that's should tell you right off the bat that it's a mess. And they also run on in some Forest Service areas. There are, well, I'm not going to say there are too many horses, but the objective is that they don't do the range irreversible harm. And there are a lot of people who think that that wild horses do irreversible harm, which is why we're interested in fertility control. And also adoption, which is, it had kind of slowed down. And then this new program happened where the government was paying people who were adopting wild horses, paying them to adopt instead of, we used to pay like $125 to adopt a Mustang. And then it became, we got paid I didn't do it, but $1,000 or something. And so of course that went to shit. Because people then adopted Mustangs for the money and then were turning around and selling them to kill buyers, and they were going to Mexico and getting killed. So that story just broke a little while ago. There's just always something. There's always something. I don't know, there seems to be no cure for a lot of these environmental issues.
Keep fighting the fight, right? And we might circle back to that with some of the questions, but just to move the conversation on, I wondered, and somebody has asked in chat too, the word detritus and your decision to kind of narrate in these two dual modes or timelines, kind of, or not timelines, but yeah, the detritus section.
They helped me sort of put in some of the past stuff, the past scenes or the past material that might help readers understand the complications that I am, and also help me understand. So they just became just ways to carry some of those pieces and to put them into the book, where I felt that's just a gut thing, where I felt they worked. And I wrote them differently. I guess they're often not, how do I say it? Not so many polished drafts. Like I usually do a whole bunch of drafts before anybody sees anything. So, you know, it might be 15 drafts before someone else gets to read it. But the detritus are more raw. You know, they might be first or second sitting or third. And I left them intentionally raw so that they would maybe show, you know, convey some of that emotional junk. So that's how I came up with it. And then when I did my thesis for the Institute of American Indian Arts, I chose at that time just to alternate kind of an essay chapter with a detritus and just go back and forth. And I didn't like it. It worked for the thesis because no one will ever read that. But for me, I didn't like it. Too linear, and I don't do linear very well. I've got enough family here that they can all attest to that. So.
Well, they're nice lyrical, you know, highly lyrical, kind of episodic moments in the book. And I think it's nice to have that breather and that different content and form. So I'm a fan of it, just so you know.
Thank you. I don't know. I kind of like it too. I think also maybe, but I'm not the reader, I'm, the writer, but maybe it breaks up the narrative a little bit and gives a different kind of voice. And I don't know if it helps the reader or not.
Yeah.
I'd like to read one if I can find it. Is that
Yeah, please do. I think it'd be great to hear your voice. It's always so nice to have the author's voice in our ear when we go back to a book.
Okay. I found it. So this is early on ish, page 48. Detritus, Sierra Nevada, 1971. October light leaks in between slats of graying barnwood. A yellow stripe marks Craig's cheek, his shoulder. I taste salt and smell the sun on his skin and in the hay beneath me that makes our bed in the neighbor's old hay barn, a place we run to in daylight. We have other places for the night when it's colder. Another neighbor's a bunkhouse already shut up for the winter, but not locked. I hear Craig's brothers roaming the afternoon near the house on the hill where I live with Craig's family while I finish high school. I hear the wind in the ponderosa as I love this boy, this man whose skin touches mine. We think we're hidden, though the wind that slips between the long, sweet needles of those big trees slips between 100-year-old planks of even older trees, and I feel a chill as the boy man-child slips into me. I watch the yellow light on his cheek, on his shoulder, move like our hearts, like our bodies, like the day through October, and all I know is this moment, this breath, his skin, my depth. I don't know, can't possibly guess that 2 Octobers from now, he will fall beneath a falling ponderosa, a tree destined to become wood that instead becomes death. But I will leave behind in a daze of drugs, the light through the cracks in the barn on his shoulder, on his cheek in October, and the mountains and valleys and horses and river and all I have known up till then.
Beautiful. I don't know if you can see everyone clapping. That was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, just a few more questions from me, and then we'll open it up to everything else. But I just wondered, you and I share a mutual background and life with ranching, and all that entails, the work of it, and also sometimes that the politics of it, or how it's perceived in the West, or walking that line. People who know me might know I've written a lot about that, walking that line between environmentalist, conservationist, and rancher. And sometimes they're doing the same work, but they're at odds, and sometimes they're not at odds, which would be a great idea always. But I wondered if you just wanted to talk a little bit about, like, what does your life look like right now, and tell everyone about your ranch or what you do.
Well, first of all, I'm going to say that in the anthology that you edited, like in 2008 or something, Homeland. Okay, as one of your essay in there is one of the best pieces I've ever read about this situation. And that was before I knew that, I love that essay and go back to it. Yeah, it's hard. So right now in this moment, my son and his wife and my 2 grandchildren are at farmers market, where we sell grass-fed, grass-finished beef. We have a really strong, loyal customer base. They've kind of grown with us. We've been doing this, I think this is our 5th summer. And I feel good about the product, the beef that we sell, for its healthy qualities and what it can give those who eat it. My job, so they're doing farmers market because I'm here, but my job on the ranch is really, well, kind of everything, but the cows are mine. So we raise criollo cows, which are, you've seen longhorns, you've seen in Lonesome Dove and, different places, cattle with horns. And the cows that we have are a heritage breed. They're kind of the forebears of longhorns. I mean, not the individual cows because, okay, they're too old. So we raise those cattle. They're way less weight than Angus or Hereford or whatever. And they therefore have, each animal, the way I look at it, each animal has less impact on the land. So we have Forest Service and Bureau of Land Management land for our cows. And I think, and somebody else would if it weren't ours. So I actually feel as if we're doing a service for the land by having these much lighter cattle. They're also browsers and they're happy to walk a long way for water. So they don't just sit around the water trough and just tear up that land. They go off again. And so yeah, that's my job today. I just had to go through and look at everybody and make sure everybody was fine. So, I love them. They're named. One had pretty, she had a calf yesterday. So, it's a joyful part of my life. Soon, in about 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I guess, we go up to the mountain to cow camp for the summer. We take the cows up there, they get green grass, and they're very happy up there in the high country. And yes, it's controversial. I'm just talking about the parts that I love. I don't love the controversy. I'm a rancher. I have cattle. I have mustangs. I have, these are opposing things in this world of the West. I just do what I do and write about it.
Good. Well, what doesn't get talked about doesn't get fixed, right? And so I think as we all endeavor to live in a sustainable way and have progressive eating habits and progressive ranching habits, the conversation is really important, and to shy away from that is a huge mistake. And so, I'm glad you're writing about your life, which increases that conversation that's going on out there culturally.
Thank you.
Yes, we're all evolving. We all need to keep evolving. That's our goal, right? Okay, one last question for me, and then I'm going to be quiet. But what are you working on next?
It's a collection of short and long pieces, essays, that are kind of interconnected because they're a lot where I am, written from Disappointment Valley to cabin or cow camp or wherever. And then so they're lyrical essays. And this pandemic was hard for everybody. And I think everybody, we all experienced that, and everybody had something additional that was going on in their lives that they had to deal with. We had a cousin who was one of my main readers, got very sick and, died before the book came out. And so, we all have something extra. And I just could feel myself. I kept spiraling down, which is not a good place for me or probably anybody. And I had to force myself to look for the joy in life, and easier to do in Disappointment Valley when there's coyotes trotting around in front of me or whatever, mustangs at my kitchen window. But I just knew that I had to make the effort to look for the joy. And my son Tyler, who's river surfing in Idaho or somewhere right now, he he kind of got stuck here because when the shutdown happened, he was here in Colorado and he had to spend, gosh, he was here for months, which, was a joy for me. But he already was birding, but he really got into it, and he would just go, that's what he did, that's how he survived. I mean, he would go out and find birds and photograph them like crazy. And I just kept watching that, how each day he would find a way to find something to feel good about. And so that's kind of, I hope what this book is looking at is, I'm calling it tentatively Fragments of Wonder, but I don't know. We'll see what happens.